Phil, you want to speak?
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to make a brief statement recognizing that today is Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, and we don't have a formal invocation, but the chairman has permitted me to say a few very brief words to recognizing Dr. Martin Luther King on this day. We know a lot of facts on Dr. Martin Luther King. He was born January 15th, 1929. He received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. All of us that are at my age or thereabouts remember very well the tragic circumstances of his assassination on April 4th, 1968. I happened to be a senior in college in Memphis, a senior in college at the time, and it was one of those dates that will always that all of us who were around at the time will remember. But I just wanted to have a moment of silence, not a highly formalized prayer or anything like that now. I think Bill has indicated that he plans on, when he says the invocation next week, to say something more formal. But I think we could perhaps just have a moment of silence in his memory and for his good and the good of his children and the people who he's left behind. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Number 2, notification of the recommendation that the town purchase 4 Ford Explorers with a public police package and warranty at the price of $30,000 each, totaling $120,000 from Whitmore Auto Group under Pennsylvania CoStar's contract 13-110.
If I may, I had occasion to meet with the chief and Public Works, talked about a couple things. This was one of them about a week and a half ago, and they were finalizing this, and I think they've done a good job. And I had text message contact with our new safety chair, and I told her this was a fairly routine matter, and I would be able to report on that on this item tonight. It's simply that it does meet budget, so within the budget parameters for sure. The vehicles are police spec'd out vehicles. There really is nothing fancy about this at all. You just carry out the mission. It does require council's approval because it exceeds the bid limit. It is a CoStar's bid. There were two companies, C. Harper, which is in Bell Vernon, also sent a bid under CoStar's, and they must have a slightly different contract number and discount number. Their price was $10 higher per car, but identical cars, lowest bidder.
Does that include all the equipment that comes in the car?
The equipment will be transferred over from the other cars, so there will be an equipment conversion charge, and there is no delivery charge. It's all included. They'll be driven here by Whitmore.
So that's the total cost?
Total cost.
Okay. All right. How does that compare to last year's price? Do you remember? You may not.
Well, not exactly.
Okay.
I know there was a 2. It's just a tad.
Pretty
higher.
close.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Number 3 is to review the tentative business meeting agenda. I think everyone got a copy of that. I don't see it. No, I don't see it. Okay. All right. Let me find that. Community agenda. Okay. All right, so the agenda will be called to order. The invocation will be given by Councilmember Kirk with the Pledge of Allegiance. And then I was looking at the order that this is, and I was looking up in Robert's rules, and it looks like our order, we might have to really look at our order. It looks like should have minutes, should be the next item after the pledge, approval of minutes. I was just looking at this in order of a meeting. It says that approving the minutes, and then it says any reports, and then unfinished business, which I think the public hearing would be. Now, we don't have to go by Robert's rules, but it just maybe help keep us
Madam Chairman, may I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
I understand your point, and I would respectfully suggest that for tonight's purposes, that we not dwell on the precise order of the things that you just mentioned, but maybe a committee that you designate can take a look at them and decide whether we ought to have a more formal approach to these items. Does that make sense? That way we can, and it may be that we could make that change, and that'd be perfectly fine, but I don't think we should make it kind of on the fly, because I do think you have discretion under the Robert's rules to alter the order of the meeting. Thank you.
I'm just thinking, doesn't the approval of the last month's minutes come pretty early in the?
Well, that was the point that I was making, is that normally minutes are approved right after the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah,
That's usually normal business protocol. That's why I was saying that our order is not actually.
Well, I think if you probably checked on the, oh, well, I guess you can. Yeah, that should be like right after the Pledge of Allegiance or something like that, yeah. I think you're right. I don't understand
You
why.
want it before the announcements.
That's usually how it's put together, is that's the first order of business, is always to approve the minutes, and then it's usually committee reports. But we can, we can take a look at this and make a more formalized one, but I think definitely changing that one would be good.
Madam President, I also would note, and as you're well aware, on the tentative agenda for this meeting, number 6 includes the minutes, and it's just a question of the order that is presented on them. But I do agree with what obviously I agree with what I said before, that we ought to study this a little more carefully and make that change, as well as any other changes we think are appropriate.
Well, do you think it would be all right to just say, let's just follow the order from here on out? We don't have to start with this one, we can start with the next one here on out, that we just follow the order that's
Certainly we can be
designated?
guided by that. I don't know that the Robert's rules, as you know yourself, you're not bound slavishly to follow Robert's rules. And it may be that would be a good idea. In fact, indeed, it sounds to me like it is a good idea, but I think we ought to just maybe study it just a wee bit before we make a formal change. That's all I'm suggesting. I'd be happy to work on a committee if you wanted to.
Okay.
I could help you with it if you wished.
Okay, so just move up the minutes?
Ahead of announcements.
I would certainly just move them up.
Yeah, just for
Yeah,
today's
just move up
meeting.
those, and
It's easy.
then we can look at the rest of it.
Thank you.
Okay?
Sounds great.
Sure, okay. And then, after that will be announcements, and then we'll have the public hearing for the conditional use for the application of sheets. And then after that, we will, move to approve, oh no, we already did that, and then we will get our reports. And Finance and Personnel Committee, do you mind, and we can just go ahead and sign who will make those motions now.
Sure.
And Joanne, if you will do that as the assistant chair of this committee, since I'll be chairing the meeting, and then we'll have a second from
Okay.
someone, and that will be to ratify the bills. And also to move to adopt Resolution 1, amending Resolution 18.
Brief comment on that item, please.
Sure?
I sent out a draft to council as a placeholder, reviewed it over the weekend, put a couple of comments. We should note, I think, that this begins in March 2018 is the plan, if that's the council accepts that plan. And the second item, which is really just a technicality, but I noticed that the section 1C in the existing resolution that laid out our meeting schedule for the year had reference to 2 committee meetings that were going to be, would not take place. Those committee meetings will take place. So one of them was January, which was the Public Safety Services, Public Works and Recreation Committee, was to be eliminated because of the conflict of the organizational meeting and the conflict of Labor Day, which now will not exist because under this plan, those meetings will be moved to the second Monday, so there won't be a conflict. Other than that, it's just pretty simple. I just want to make sure we're all accurate with what we presented.
Okay. Any questions about that at all? And then next will be zoning.
Yeah, that's Vincentian wants to keep 105, go to 105 spaces on their own 37. I really don't see any problem with them doing that. In fact, they said they're having trouble putting in parking sidewalks along Coomer Road because of trees. I would cut them a break and even get rid of that requirement that they put the sidewalks on Coomer's the side, because the other people on the other side of Coomer have sidewalks, and if they're having real problems with trees and stuff, I would cut them a break and get rid of that
But didn't he
requirement.
say that there were people complaining about not wanting them to cut the trees down?
Right, yeah, for the sidewalks.
Well, this is to approve what they've requested. If they want to change something, then they're gonna have to come back and ask us to change it. Right?
Okay, well, we might say that, we might give Nick a heads up that we would be willing to consider that. Right?
Or, I don't know, or I mean, I don't know if we're willing to consider that.
Well, at least I would be willing to consider.
Okay. So do we need to wait on approving this then, for them to come back? Because if we approve it as it is, then they're required to put in the sidewalks, unless they come back for,
Well, we can just approve the, keeping it at 105 spaces,
okay.
and then they would have to come back with some type of motion.
Right.
Revisit
Yeah,
Yeah, they would
Okay.
have.
the sidewalk.
Right.
So,
Right.
but this, as it is only about the parking space.
yeah, but,
Okay.
yeah,
If they
I'm just mentioning what my thoughts were. Yeah, but we should, I would say we should approve this at 105 spaces
Okay.
and give them that waiver.
Keeping in mind that they've received their permit, I put that in my manager's report, they got their permit on January 10th, so they're trying to move, weather permitting, they're trying to move as quickly as they can, so. It's never good to do things on helter-skelter or impromptu, but if they have a plan that they could present to us, would you entertain them looking at that? Would council want to have them present that on Monday? They would have to give us a formal request.
Yeah,
On Monday?
yeah, next Monday.
Only
So when
because
would we have the time to discuss?
you would,
then-
other than under the floor. I'm just, again, I'm saying that's sort of.
Yeah,
This doesn't have to be Monday, this they could come back to
Well,
in
yeah.
a month.
I'm
Well, as
saying
you
that
said, they're
gonna be
permits.
grading, they're gonna be
Yeah.
grading, and I think tree removal will probably most likely be one of the first things that they would be
Have
considering
they
doing
even
on the site.
requested to come back and to?
That-
bring
No,
this
they
up?
haven't
They
requested.
would have to give us if you.
Did they talk to you about it, Greg?
No, they didn't talk to me.
Oh, it was
I-
just
I
your idea?
Yeah, just my idea. He mentioned, Nick mentioned that they were having trouble with the neighbors don't even want the sidewalks.
Toby, when the last meeting happened on Coomer Road with the sidewalks,
Right.
and they decided against putting sidewalks along the Vincentian side, do you recall the reason for that?
No, I don't. I can't think of.
Jerry
specific
said that they
reason.
did that. Looking at the map, there's no sidewalks on any of the houses the entire length of Coomer.
Sure
It's
there
just the road's wide.
Well, on the other side of Coomer, up at the top there's sidewalks,
Mm,
right across the street from Vincentian.
I don't recall them showing us a plan.
Yes, you're right, that last 5 houses.
How the sidewalks would look there. And so I only bring up the fact that if action can't be taken or isn't taken this month, that's gonna be a good 4 or 5, almost 5 weeks until.
Well, it makes sense, and so why don't you give them a notice and see if they want to entertain it.
What does the rest of the council think?
We can entertain anything.
I'm generally, yeah, I'd say that, we can entertain it, but it sounds to me like at this juncture that they might be able to accelerate and articulate in greater detail a plan that would achieve what you're saying, so we could just discuss that on Monday and then vote.
With the sidewalks,
Yeah,
yeah. Or, yeah, Yeah.
If they could pull it together,
Yeah.
submit a request with accompanying information to present to you at the board meeting, voting meeting, you could, we would have to have an alternate motion or an additional motion to, I would suggest not waiving the sidewalks.
Well, yeah, until we,
But I think they're gonna have to give you a very good description of what they would like to do, so that you can give an appropriate on-the-spot response. Otherwise,
This is something that should be coming up in our zoning, committee meeting.
ordinarily,
I mean, and they've not even requested to come, and then it seems like it doesn't, I feel rushed.
Well,
Or
I
does
mean,
everyone feel
clearly.
rushed? It seems to
I do
me
feel
that they,
Well,
if they
that's what
want
I said,
this,
how can we vote? We haven't really,
right,
Yeah.
I feel like if they,
Discussed in
if they
detail.
even want this, that they should bring this back in the proper procedure to come through, the zoning committee, and then for us to discuss it and ask
These are
them
the last
questions
two
in the
ones
discussion
on
that we,
camera.
the way we always
what's
do
cool
it,
right there.
and then we can make those adjustments from there. That's my suggestion.
and I think we need to be careful, because if we do this for one,
Right,
then you'll have others coming
Right,
in
right,
wanting the
right.
same thing.
right.
right,
Where
yes.
would the sidewalks
So-
be getting done by the houses?
Just those last two houses.
So what do you all think? Do you wanna make a special exception to see if they wanna come on next month's meeting? Or do you wanna just tell them if they wanna come back and see us the normal way that we do it through our, zoning committee? How do you
well,
wanna-
you're saying that they don't have time for that, to go through
I'm
this.
not exactly sure, it's gonna depend on the weather,
Yeah,
but I know they had a pre-construction meeting, last Wednesday, I think it was, the 10th,
Okay.
was that the 10th? It was, the 10th was Wednesday, and they got the go-ahead from our engineers and our zoning office that they could proceed with their plan as designed.
Weren't they digging today in that, I think I drove, it was either today
Oh,
or,
no, but they could have
they
been.
had a backhoe, they were poking
It's
around.
gonna depend on weather. If we have a
Yeah.
hard freeze again and stays hard for a while, it's just, there's all kinds of things that could happen here. But if they are able to move quickly, that's their intent.
Toby, your concern is that the trees may be removed
right.
It may
if
become
we wait
moot, that's
until
right.
next month.
Yeah, right, could become moot.
And what is your,
And Greg, your position is that
Yeah,
it'd
the
be
tree,
better, make more sense to have the sidewalk on the other side?
well, the sidewalk is on Coomer, is on, like, Steve, did you say it was on the last
There's
5
two
houses?
homes on Coomer, the closest two houses across the street, that have a sidewalk. That little group of two homes also has 4 other homes in that little development, on Babcock that have sidewalks. But there's no sidewalk the entire length of Coomer, and I remember Mr. Hoffman telling me that they allowed a variance to not put sidewalks in, but instead they widened the road that additional 3 feet, the entire length of Coomer. And I guess my real question is, what is required of sidewalks? Is it 3 feet of grass and then 4 feet or 5 feet of sidewalk?
2 to 4 feet of grass, depending on existing conditions, 4-foot wide sidewalk.
So we're talking, this has got to be 6 to 8 feet into the grass area, into the tree area, to put a sidewalk there on Coomer. I know we've got a lot of complaints about them tearing out too many trees already on that site.
they want the trees to be there, right?
Everybody
Right, that's
seems
what
to want the trees there.
neighbors- That's what he said,
And
the
if people
neighbors
wanna
said.
walk on sidewalks, they can just walk across the street.
Yeah, I understand.
That's what I'm saying, and it's a sidewalk that really doesn't connect anywhere on the,
Would it make sense, Greg, to study a little more between now and next Monday and be sure that we know what we're saying, or if you're making a
Yeah.
motion, then make a motion to achieve that result?
well, yeah, if you.
So, does that make sense, or?
I could talk to them tomorrow. Bruce Betty is away this week, but I'll talk to them tomorrow and see if they wanna come in, if you're willing to
Do we
entertain it.
want to do this next week? Is that what we're
Yeah,
saying?
that's what I'm
Well,
saying.
the problem
Okay,
is if we
great.
don't do it next week, then we
You run the risk.
run the risk of having them tear the trees out. And at that point, if they tear the trees out, the sidewalks are going
But
in.
if they
It's
want
moot, yeah.
to come the following month, then they could know to hold the trees and then to come and talk about that.
Yeah.
If they're willing, they may not be willing.
We're able.
There was one other thing, Toby, you said, did I understand you to have just a moment ago expressed skepticism about waiving any sidewalk requirement in this area here?
It's been our policy for years, and I think it's a great policy that the sidewalks go in unless there's some real extenuating circumstance.
And the main reason for not requiring sidewalks would be what?
Well, the fact
The
that
trees.
the neighbors don't want it, for one thing, the neighbors with sidewalks don't want it. The ones that already have the sidewalks in place don't want them to put sidewalks on Vincentians, on the Vincentian side, since they have sidewalks that take care of any pedestrian travel.
On the other side of the street.
Yeah, on the other side of the street, and also going towards North Park, that sidewalk just ends, it doesn't go
Yeah.
anywhere.
Well, I
It
think I
just-
still have the same view that I had a moment ago, that in the intervening week before Monday, that just articulate on a piece of paper what it is we would like to do, and then at that meeting, that's our voting meeting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Then we just take a vote, but I think we ought to have some good preparation in advance of the meeting so we're sure what we're doing.
Yeah.
Greg, did they specifically say they didn't want sidewalks, or they just didn't want them to take the trees?
The residents did not want them to take the trees. The development said if they're putting sidewalks in, they're gonna have to take trees.
He just.
Seems
he
like a
ju- He
lose-lose.
just mentioned it almost casually. He wasn't even he was addressing the green spaces, the parking spaces. But I said, well, what the heck is the sense in having sidewalks if they're gonna take down trees and the neighbors don't want that to be done, and they have a sidewalk already on the other side of Coomer. I
No,
said,
you just said they only have sidewalk at 2 houses,
The
right?
first
Well-
2 homes on Coomer have sidewalk. That's the only 2 homes on the entire street. And that includes Old Coomer and, which has had houses put in since the law has taken effect.
Is there no way to put sidewalks in there around the trees? Because people have been putting in sidewalks around trees a long time.
I understand
Right.
that.
Seems like there should be some
That's not what
way-
they said.
Yeah, can't
Yes,
they
but
go
who
around them?
said?
When I drove past last week, there's
Vincentian.
plenty of space. When you look at the trees to serpentine,
Yeah.
if you want to, I mean, I had a sidewalk put in, it's 2 feet from a massive maple tree. And there were 2 roots that they just ground down a little bit to be able to make it work,
But the
but
tap
They're
roots are
probably
There's-
big.
it's
objecting because
easy
it
to-
costs more
Now
money.
probably. And
this
it's not that
sidewalk
bad.
rule, would that not mean that any house with a sidewalk should have it the entire length of their property along the road?
Yes.
Why did that new plan stop about 100 feet looked like actually probably 150 feet before their property ends?
From time to time, there have been extenuating circumstances like you're talking about right now. Sometimes tree protection, usually it's slopes.
There's no trees, no
It's
slope.
usually, I don't recall
flat.
any specific reason there. So the
So can
This
we
one right
have
here.
Vincentian look at that and see if they can propose, maybe,
Hang on all the way to the triangle.
an alternative to taking down the trees and having a sidewalk?
Sounds to me like
This
we
is,
need
I
more
would suggest
discussion.
that.
I,
This is their property
again,
here,
I'd
right?
rush to do this.
This is
I
it,
don't
right?
think we're ready
I
to
The
feel
go.
like-
Vincentian property?
I
Yeah.
feel like,
Yeah.
okay.
and it seems to be, these sidewalks are going down a lot more than two houses.
No?
over here, if you're talking about over
I'm
here on
talking
Bab-
about here.
Let me pull this
Steve was
down.
pointing to Babcock.
Yeah, I'm
See,
talking
that-
about
we're,
Carr.
we're looking at a Google map right now, and if these folks want to take you up on this, let them be prepared Monday night to give you a good presentation.
Let's have some head nods as to we wanna deal with this on
I would let
Monday
them listen
next
to it,
month.
either,
Yeah.
anytime. Whenever they wanted to
The
come in, I would.
question- The question is, do we want to deal with, do we want them to come this on Monday and listen and make a decision on Monday? Or do we want them to come next month to the zoning meeting and then put it on for the decision?
Well, if it affects construction, I would say allow them to come Monday.
If we,
Keep your
I don't
options
think,
open.
pardon
Keep
me,
your- sorry.
I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
Keep your options open.
That's
They-
exactly what I was
If they
gonna
come in
say.
Monday night and have a plan, and they can say, we can delay, I think you need to hear from them.
Yeah, I feel
If they
rushed.
wanna do it.
As the chair said it several times already, that she feels rushed, I feel rushed too on this. And I don't think, I think if we certainly don't wanna commit to them in advance what we're going to do, or for that matter, specifically vote on anything. I think we should hear what they have to say, and if it squares away with what we wanna do, then vote on it, right?
And other than that, we could table it until
Yeah,
we discuss
right.
it.
Exactly.
Right, I-
Agree, okay,
Hurts
Bill,
no
you
tar-
had something to say?
Madam President, I would just say that this ties nicely with the great open discussion we had at the last meeting about zoning and variances and incentives. And certainly, after hearing more information about the decisions that were already made prior to the meeting last week. My heart has softened towards their request for less parking, for good reasons. And I think that being able to serpentine a sidewalk, the minimal additional cost that would require to save the trees would certainly be a good compromise and achieve goals that I would be satisfied considering. You know.
Plus, aren't they saving money on not putting the additional parking in?
That's,
And that's kind of my point.
Well, they
is-
may not be.
Pardon me?
If we make them put it in 6 months, they're actually costing them more.
all right, so so then we agree that we're gonna allow them to present to us on Monday, is that what we're saying?
Yeah.
But we will not necessarily vote
Right.
on it on
Not the-
Monday?
right.
That we can either decide
Right.
then if someone wants to make a
Right.
motion to vote, or we can table it and then discuss it and bring it back up next month, is that agree?
I agree.
Get
Yeah, I
lots of
agree.
head nods.
Great.
I agree.
Okay, all right.
I got it too.
Okay, good. So what I'd like to do too is, Greg, if you're good with that motion, 1B, if you'll be comfortable making that motion, and then.
Oh, yeah, I'll make this motion, but that's just for the,
Right.
green space.
Right.
For the,
And then usually the vice chair, if he agrees with the motion, usually will give the second. Okay, all right. The next item on the agenda is move to approve the land development application of full construction for the, known as Park's Edge Lot 5.
Yeah, I'll make that motion too, but he was asking for a waiver for parking spaces, for sidewalks,
Sidewalks.
I'm sorry.
Did you see the letter from
Yeah,
our
so,
engineer?
he says it's possible,
Our engineer says it's possible.
but is it realistic? I mean,
Well, I had a meeting with him. He was tail end of the pre-construction meeting for the extension. I asked for a time with him and our zoning officer, and I said, okay, we know what's coming up here Monday night. I asked our engineer point blank, can you fit sidewalks? And he said, yeah. He said, the way that it's shown on the plan right now, the way the grading is, if the county will not allow him to put the sidewalks where they're shown on the plan,
Under the right of way.
in their right of way, which could happen, because the county has done that before years ago on Duncan Avenue, then he would have to come back and say to us, I have minor grading changes, our engineer would review them, he'd still have to put the sidewalk in. If it's a major change, a major expense, then he could come back and try it, as these folks we're talking about here, previous discussion, take another bite at the apple. But right now, our engineer says, the county lets us can put the sidewalks where they're showing, they can be fit in there.
I assume we don't have any photos of that?
We had a grading plan we looked at, we had a plan on the table, we looked at the grading plan, and I was pointing to the grading plan with the engineer, and
So why is he objecting to the
he
sidewalks?
doesn't
Because
want
it'll
to put, he's.
cost him more money?
The argument we're getting, I believe, is that it's extra money, he has paid some extra engineering, but sometimes you do.
Part of the
Sometimes you
job.
do, sometimes you get away with less, and the sidewalks are a requirement, so, our engineer didn't see any pragmatic reason to not require them.
And I think we should be very careful about unduly eroding our requirement to have sidewalks.
I agree.
Otherwise, it becomes a meaningless rule.
Now, if they're going to put the sidewalk in the right of way, what does that make the sidewalk?
4 feet,
And there's no 2 foot,
it'd be at least a 2-foot strip.
so it's still gonna be 6 feet in.
Mhm.
Because the bottom of that bank starts at about 2
He's
feet,
gonna
we
have to
drove
take back-
past it.
Well, his grading.
So he'd
plan-
have to regrade the entire thing back
It
6
shows,
feet.
the grading plan shows that he has to take that grading, that land back. He
And that will
described it.
remove every tree in that hole.
That's probably what he's gonna have to do
Yeah,
anyway.
it's- I'm
Yeah,
just pointing that
I
out.
don't think it was gonna change the grade, I think it was just a matter of whether to put the sidewalk in there or not.
If it comes down, I'll mention right now, if it comes down to trees versus sidewalks, you're gonna probably have a two-edged sword to deal with in just about every case. There's gonna be a lot of people that wanna walk, there's a lot of people that are asking for sidewalks in this town. We've had it, it's in our ordinance for a long time, and there are maybe some trees that would have to be taken down. Trees don't last forever, replacement trees can be planted. That might be something to consider more.
Are there
more fervently in our ordinance.
sidewalks out there now?
And it is very possible, he has, his engineer has reached out to the county and say, can you please give me an answer, am I gonna be allowed to put these sidewalks? And the drainage, the company drainage, if you recall, the drainage pipe that's along the county road as well, that the each lot's gonna have to tap into, and the county is likely to move slowly. We're likely to have to put a condition on this motion saying that approved based upon county approval for the location of sidewalks and storm drainage.
I think we should put that on there.
Well, if the county doesn't respond. If the county hasn't responded by Thursday, my action is gonna be to put a condition on there about the sidewalks, and about the drainage,
Okay.
subject to county approval.
But do these sidewalks connect to anything?
To each other, there's 5 lots there that,
Internally, there's no perimeter sidewalk requirement?
no, right, it would, the part of the, one sidewalk you may wanna consider eliminating, our engineer made the same comment to us, again, pragmatically, is the one on West Ridge. Deborah Sagan made the comment at the meeting last week that there was a trail that could connect to have that sidewalk. The general consensus seems to be if you could allow a sidewalk to be not constructed, it would be the one on West Ridge, which is the perpendicular
Well,
road.
that's flat anyhow. That's the easiest place to put the sidewalk. I mean, if we're gonna have them do sidewalk, I would think have them do the entire sidewalk.
Are we good with moving to approve this then, as it is with, if we don't hear anything by Thursday, contingent on the county?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Are we good to approve this plan this land development application as it is, which does include the sidewalk, tentative to if the county approves it or not?
So if we approve it, then he needs to put the sidewalks in, correct?
Unless the county says
Right, okay.
no.
Does that alter what Greg was, but I thought he was going to be tinkering with the requirements?
He's thinking right now of his tinkering.
Yeah.
Well, how do you know the sidewalk is included in this? Is the sidewalk included in this?
As per the plan, yes, the
Per the
additional
plan?
sidewalk is shown on the plan, the grading is shown on the plan.
Yeah, I haven't.
And we're
seen-
saying we can't get a copy of that plan now? Bruce doesn't have a copy in his
No, we
office? or-
do, but I could try to find it.
Didn't he have it here last Monday?
He
Yeah,
did.
Yeah.
he did.
Yes, we did.
I could try to find it, but
Do sidewalks have to be on the road? I mean, we're talking about the serpentine, but for example, with Ascension, couldn't they just run the sidewalk up the left side of the driveway on Coomer?
that's where.
Down the parking lot?
That's
and
where it would
then
get
back out?
interesting, you try to bench, you would have to be, you're talking about benching them, because what's gonna happen is county road, sidewalk, county may require curb, there's no curb on this road right now, that's the other thing that's being considered, but sidewalk, grading. If you try to get the sidewalks back and further, then you're probably trying to figure out a way to bench them and.
I'm talking about following the exact parking lot itself. If you took, I have it here somewhere.
It's gonna be hard to make those decisions here without a map and without visuals for everybody.
Yeah, I have it,
These
but
are our
that's-
good questions for when they're here.
Right, and the developer, this is
Yeah,
this
and
meeting is
Ruth
usually
needs
a-
to answer.
It's usually a status meeting. I've
Right.
given you the status, but I think for us to delve into it tonight, I think it would be proper.
Yeah.
Tell Mr. Developer and his engineer to come in with his status report, give us his best information before you vote next week. We will have the contingencies ready to go. If I haven't heard anything, they're going on the agenda.
Well, we
That's
had
what it has to
extensive
be.
discussion at the last
We
meeting,
did.
Yeah, we did.
and I think he, Mr. Pohl, is that his name, Mr. Pohl?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's well aware of what the variables are. But we can,
Yeah, I asked our engineer, I said, is there more additional grading that he's gonna have to do? He said, no, look at the grading plan. You can fit the sidewalks in along the road and
But we sent him
Okay.
away where he had to make some decisions, didn't he?
it's up to right now it's up to the county, really.
Okay.
okay, all right, I think we're,
I don't have anything further to add.
Okay. Next on the agenda is any new business, any public comment, and then we will move to enter into executive session. We have two items to discuss. You okay?
Yeah, I just realized I made a mistake. I thought we were discussing the police candidate tonight, and I brought my folder, okay.
Okay.
I realized
Just hang
that.
on to it.
Yeah,
We're gonna
Do it next
we're
week,
gonna
yeah.
just do it all at once while
Yeah.
we're in executive session,
Yes.
all at once. And we're going to discuss a letter of agreement with the town attorney as well as the police candidate selection. So there'll be personnel matters. And then we will adjourn. Any questions or comments on that?
yeah, my question is, well, the same as yours. that police candidate selection, it says there, does that mean we're doing that tonight, or is
No,
that?
No,
no,
next week.
that's a mistake I
Yeah,
made.
that's the plan for next week, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I got you.
Then we can just go into
Right,
executive
I
session
understand, I
once.
understand. Thanks for the clarification.
Absolutely. Okay, number 4, discuss the preparation of a resolution in accordance with Article 6, Section 601 of the Home Rule Charter, utilizing the full powers authorized in accordance with Section 602 of this council to conduct a full investigation into the performance of the duties of Councilman Mertz, including citizen complaints against the same. All right, I did speak with the town attorney concerning this, and if this investigation is conducted by our town attorney, then it is, as is proposed at the organizational meeting, it's gonna cost the town between $5,000 and $10,000 to conduct this investigation. What I would like to do is to see if this council cannot come to some type of solution so we could resolve this issue ourselves. Mr. Kirk, you made this motion. Is there any solution that perhaps you have that we could possibly, this council, solve this situation?
Madam President, I wasn't privy to the conversation with council. I don't doubt, depending on what they were thinking, of the costs suggested. That was certainly my intention in writing this resolution and having this investigatory hearing conducted by our own council members, a committee of our council, that the cost would be nil. I will say that said, nor do I like putting a price on the maintaining of public decency and the standards of our council and our elected officials. But that said, I understand from the town charter that much of our ability to deal with this issue will be in many ways symbolic. Nonetheless, I think vital to the integrity of this body. I certainly would not undertake or suggest that we undertake this investigatory hearing if public apologies were written to the aggrieved parties. If that can't happen, then I think the investigatory hearing, which may culminate in a public reprimand in the form of a resolution of censure, would be the alternative. My goal here is simply to send a message to the community that this council does hold high standards. And so the answer is public apologies to the aggrieved parties are really, I think, what the aggrieved parties want. It's what I want to uphold as a member of this council representing the voters of this town.
What would that include, Bill? I know it's always difficult to articulate views or reasoning that involves our own colleagues right on the council, but I have to confess that I was disturbed when I learned that my colleague to the left had put on, I guess, Facebook or something like that, and basically disparaged the entire parish of St. Alexis, of which I happen to be a member, and I know you're a member. I didn't take offense to it as a member, but I thought those were evidence of intemperate approaches that really aren't appropriate for one of our colleagues to engage in. We ought to exercise more self-control and respect for ourselves and for the image that we portray in the community. We're not a bunch of guys working on the docks. We ought to be, exercise discretion, and I think that's one particular thing I thought was a problem. And while we're here, and I don't want to I'm not gonna go into the details, but I think using really coarse language, well, one of the parish members told me that she had responded in a courteous way to one of the assertions that, I guess it was Mr. Mertz had made, and she was met by a discourteous, foul response from the Mertz family. Now, you can't control what everybody says, but it just seems to me, I witnessed myself, Mr. Mertz using extremely coarse language, and with no apology whatsoever to the lady to my right. And I just don't understand it. I mean, I've been in the Army, I worked at U.S. Steel, I've been in the mills, and I've not been around people that just routinely, use, I don't want to repeat the language myself, but we know what we're talking about. And I just think that should stop. If we could get, it would be very helpful, a mature person such as Steve, it's pretty hard to change your stripes when you're an adult and an intelligent person. But I think there ought to be a commitment and an effort to just put that stuff behind you and not use that kind of language and those sort of vitriolic personal attacks. That's all I have to say on the subject, I think.
So, let me see if I'm make sure that I understand this. Mr. Kirk, you are suggesting written apologies to whom?
To the children that were involved in their family.
To the family, okay.
Correct.
All right,
To the parish of St. Alexis.
okay, all right, who else? Where is that on?
Ralph Ladon.
Sir, I would agree.
I couldn't hear you.
Ralph Ladon.
Citizen Ralph Ladon.
And that would satisfy you, and that would satisfy your, my goal is to
And
satisfy
Mrs.
this.
Powers, I would say too, I'd add that to the list. She's certainly an aggrieved party. I mean, I was personally here when.
Are we saying that anybody who's offended by anything anybody says on town
No,
council,
no,
that council?
Okay.
I'm really not, Steve. I can, if I may I answer that?
Yes.
No, that's not my assertion. My assertion is when you use the, for lack of a better way to put it, the, sort of language of the street in this kind of a setting, and address it to a mature woman who's the widow of a former president of council, it's just not appropriate. If you're a smart guy, you can articulate your grievances without resorting to language of the street. That's all I'm saying. When you tell me, that's my objective. Not the fact that you're critical of Ralph or critical of Joanne, but and you've never directed it at me, thankfully. I mean, I think you've been always courteous with me. But I think that's what should stop, Steve. I'm not saying there's capital punishment for it, but I think you would enhance your position on council, our view of you, and your ability to be an effective council member if you just left that behind. I think really, that's my view. And
Steve adds a lot to the meetings. I mean,
Clearly.
Today's meeting was, on the zoning issues, he adds a lot. But really, Steve, I cannot support you in this. To tell the newspaper that gay people should be stoned. I never heard this kid say that.
Do you remember you weren't even there most of the time?
No, I was
You were there for about a half an hour and you left before
Okay,
everybody
all
else.
right, so I do not want to get into a he said, she said debate here. We need to stay focused, there's no reason to rehash all of this. We need to, the goals that I see here are to maintain the integrity of this council and the respectfulness in the community of this council, to be able to deal with this in a way that is satisfactory to the members of council, so we can get on about the business that council needs to get on to. So that's why I'm asking specifically so we can see if we can come to some agreement. The members who feel that with this investigation, what they need to resolve this, and then if Steve would be willing to do those things. So we're talking about apologies, written apologies, And, we're talking a pledge for,
Courtesy?
language, courtesy's kind of vague.
Language.
Language, okay. For a pledge to, how can we say that, a pledge for,
Decorum. For decorum.
To help maintain proper decorum.
Yes.
do we know what that means?
As an example, to not use, I'm not coming with the best terminology for you at the moment, coarse language or, to debate. in a-
Offensive, would
Offensive,
offensive
yeah,
language
yeah,
be?
you know, that's a good
Okay.
point.
Because
Offensive is really hard to,
it is,
It
it
is.
is,
Because I got
it is.
one of the words I used was screwed, and apparently that was offensive.
Well, and I
Okay.
realize that some places offensive varies.
I got it handy. Council labored over this, if you recall, for some time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Five of you council members, and it happens to be item 5 in our rules that were adopted in 2016, where the council, president of town council may rule out of order, any offensive, insulting, threatening, scandalous, or obscene comments. Now, I'm not suggesting you put all 5 adjectives out in an apology, but you may want to capture some of that idea that's the kind of behavior you want at your council meetings, from everybody. So,
Now, I have already written a statement to St. Alexis, and it's been on my page, along with on St. Alexis's page.
You wrote that you didn't say it.
Well, because I didn't. I never attacked the entire congregation of St. Alexis. I have no intention of ever attacking the entire congregation of St. Alexis. I don't know how it was misunderstood, if it was misunderstood, or if it was just something that was said.
Well, wait a second. I was there when you made that comment, and you basically said all of St. Alexis. You mentioned St. Alexis, and I said my son goes to St. Alexis, and so you accepted my son out.
What I said was, of all of the churches in the area, I have seen a higher amount of people from St. Alexis go after gays, Muslims, or Mexicans build the wall than any other church. That's the only thing. It was
No,
not
that's not
the
what you
entire
said.
congregation.
That's
All
not
right,
what
all
you
right,
said.
all right.
Well, that's pretty
all right,
offensive just
so-
by itself.
Yeah.
So,
Well, but-
But
okay,
you didn't say
How
it.
can that be accurate?
order. All right, an apology to St. Alexis, an apology to the family, decreasing coarse language, Mrs. Powers, Ladon. Would that satisfy council if, I need nods of approval, if we can secure these things, and then we're gonna go to the next step, if we can secure these things, will that satisfy this investigation so that we can, move on and close this and move on?
Yeah,
Nods.
yeah.
Nods,
Yes.
okay. Now, Steve, you have
Ah.
heard what it is gonna be required for us to, resolve this issue. I wish I had a nickel for everything I had ever said in my life that I wish I had not, because I would be a very rich person. And I have been very thankful that I've had people who have forgiven me for things I've said, whether I meant it to be offensive or not. Having said that, I ask you if these 5 stipulations, if you would be willing to comply with this so that we can meet our goal here and end this investigation, get on with council business.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what I'm writing to Ralph Ladon, but the other 3, I certainly can write something up.
All right, and also, I think some type of, I don't wanna call it a promise, but something of,
Commitment.
commitments.
I have certainly been doing better with that
I think-
over
and
the
I
past
agree with that.
many years.
I.
Last 3 years, I've repeatedly done better.
So you,
To the point where I'm not even sure I'm the worst mouth on the council anymore, but,
You're not the worst one, I didn't hear what you said.
mouth on council.
A mouth.
all right, so, so you, then you do agree. So you will write these, and work on your language.
Yeah.
How does that language get approved without being too picky about it? There'll be some,
I think we probably know what we're talking about, and if we have to come back and revisit this, I think we've been pretty clear about words that we find
but the written representation, who's gonna look at that? Well, he's gonna write apologies, right?
Okay,
Okay,
Are they gonna be public?
are they gonna be public to, at least to us?
I think probably.
They were public on my page.
Now, these being on a Facebook page, because these people will not be on your Facebook page, so I think these need to be perhaps handwritten and mailed. Is that what we're thinking?
That's what I think.
Is that what we're thinking, handwritten and mailed?
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't know if any of these people are really enough on Facebook. And it seems to me that it would be appropriate to just email them out to council. They could be confidential, since the only people that they need to go to are to us and then these individuals. Are we agreeing with that?
There should be some form of public apology for what has gone through here, whether these are made public or whether there's a public
Now, we
apology.
said family, parish, Ladon, and Powers, so, and Mrs. Powers, so
Well,
you're adding another
I'm
thing?
not adding, but I'm saying that, and I presume that the apology to the parish of St. Alexis would be public to the parish, and so I guess that would suffice.
Would that, okay, all right.
Yes.
Okay,
But
All
the
right.
contrite, it's all, my whole goal is here to modify behavior and do it in a sensible way that we can
Okay.
all support.
okay.
So my public page since December 28th, 1:28 p.m. is read. I am sorry that I used profanity in the heat of the moment. I was wrong. I will try harder in the future to watch my language. I hope we can put behind us and make this and move on to a more productive conversations working towards the future and for a better McCandless. And that was 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago.
I think that's. I
Where
think-
where else am I making this public apology?
Madam President,
Yes,
I think Mr. Wuskowskis's, Councilman Wuskowskis's point is well taken, that the people, the parishioners of St. Alexis were in fact offended, whether you meant to do that or not. I also believe that the children of the family felt intimidated, whether you meant to do that or not. And I think part of this process is for you to be introspective and reflective and realize that sometimes people can be offended, and you need to take responsibility for your own actions. I heard time and again that your actions were prompted by others, but as we all know as adults, we make choices and we decide what actions we're going to take. And at this point in time, I'm asking you to take responsibility for your actions.
I've done that.
And provide contrite apologies to these people so that they appreciate that you truly are sorry for aggrieving them.
and you have agreed to do that, to write these and mail them.
Yes.
Okay. I think the sensitivity training that we're also initiating and going to be doing in the next couple of months will also help reinforce all of this.
Great.
So, then if the council has made their requirements, Steve has agreed to these requirements, then we consider this investigation concluded.
I will withdraw my,
Well, I think it's complete. Hang on just one second, if I may, Madam President, Madam Chairman. It's complete when the agreed actions are in fact completed. In other words, when Mr. Mertz does what he says he's gonna do, in terms of the apologies, and the apologies are made, then I would say that's completion.
But the investigation itself would be complete.
That phase of it is, yeah.
I will suspend submittal of my resolution.
Is that,
Pending
Mr.
completion.
Solicitor, is that something that needs to be a formal motion?
No, I don't believe it needs to be a formal motion. It's on a tentative agenda, it's a resolution that could be presented at the next meeting or just put in his pocket and held on to.
Okay.
And as long as, I guess, council is satisfied with the way this progresses, it just never gets presented,
Okay,
along with a follow-up resolution to whatever the investigation would reveal. It just never comes to be.
okay, okay.
One more thing, if you don't mind, as far as exchanging emails, I don't know that we can guarantee confidentiality about that because it is among a quorum of members. So if you're going to exchange things, just be aware that, a right to know request could
Okay,
ask for that.
all right, so maybe that was a bad idea then for the, for that. Is there some other verification method that anybody?
Right in the form of a letter. Forget the electronic communication.
Okay,
Send them a letter.
okay.
And,
Send one to the parish.
And how about sending it, certified? Can we send it certified so that then there's the evidence that it was sent and delivered?
And all that we would have here,
Yeah,
Mr. Waltz, would be the fact that it was sent certified. You could give us the letters, we could send it certified, all we'll have is a receipt requested, so we won't have the letter here. 'Cause if it's here, it could be a
Right,
public
it
record.
could be public record.
And it could be-
What is the problem with me giving council a copy of the 4 letters?
There's no problem with it, it's just, it might be a public record, is all I was saying.
and then-
Well, it's public record anyhow. I've apologized publicly.
Okay.
Everything's
If
been
you're,
public.
if you're
That's
fine
completely
with
fine.
it, if you're fine with
I
it,
was just
that's fine.
raising
You
it.
can send it, that's fine. If you wanna do it like that,
I just didn't want
that's-
anybody to have an expectation of confidentiality here.
Then just send us a copy.
That's a copy of the
Okay.
town.
Are we ready to move on to our next? Thank you for working through this resolution. Okay, liaison, board, commission.
The planning commission had 3 issues. One was the sheets, which was discussed in detail. The second was the subdivision at Park Edge near Babcock entrance to North Park, which was already discussed. And the other one was this, they discussed a variance needed by Ingomar Methodist Church for building an addition. The reason that's not on our agenda is because the planning commission has to review certain types of plans that will go before the zoning hearing board. And this will go before the zoning hearing board on January 25th, Thursday, January 25th. So the review was made in accordance with 136504C of our zoning code. If a proposed plot requires granting of a variance as well as a plot approval, which is started with the planning commission reviewing it, the planning commission will review the procedure before the zoning hearing board. So that's what happened there. And then to follow up on the zoning hearing board, that's the only thing. They had no meeting last month, and their only thing on the agenda is this review of this Ingomar United Methodist Church edition.
Okay. And we'll have, of course, be having our public hearing on the sheets.
Right, yeah,
Right, on next week.
right.
Okay. Anything from the zoning hearing board?
No, I was just
Just both of those?
folding one into the other.
Okay. All right. Now, this will be the last month that we'll go around and be asking each individual to give their report. Hopefully, next month, everyone will have submitted their written reports, and then we can just go through and see what questions that people have. Mr. Kirk, do you have anything from the sanitary authority?
Madam President, just briefly, the organizational meeting was held January 4th, and Tom Riley was elected chairman. And also, your newly appointed member, Chris Eddy, joined the board, replacing William Huntley. That concludes my report.
Okay. All right. The Franklin Park ambulance.
The first meeting will be held the 4th Monday in January, and so I look forward to, I spoke to Mr. Huber, and I look forward to attending.
Okay. Ms. Powers, anything from the library?
We did not have a meeting last month, but
Okay.
I just have 2 dates that I'd like to pass along. The library gala event will be April 21st, and on August the 12th, there will be an event for the library's 50th anniversary.
Okay, all right. good.
That
Keep-
concludes my report.
Thank you. North Hills County Governments,
Nothing at this time.
nothing.
Steve, if I may, your first meeting will be this Thursday at 7:30 at Shaler Township Municipal Building. I can fill you in some more details if you like after the meeting.
I forgot to say that Toby has generously agreed to put together a little papers to hand out to kind of tell you when the liaison, when the meetings are and kind of what the committee does and your role as the liaison. So we have those and we can pass those out because I know a lot of people are, on new
I
committees.
have to have the meeting dates.
Meeting dates.
I have to have the meeting dates.
Okay.
I did the description. What I'll do, I'll add the meeting dates and I'll send them out via email and I'll have a hard copy for everybody next week.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Okay. Joint rec,
Nothing
no
yet.
meetings, okay. MIDA, no meeting?
Yeah, there's an organizational meeting tomorrow,
Okay.
tomorrow night at, tomorrow afternoon, actually, 4:30 tomorrow afternoon,
Okay.
organizational meeting.
Okay. Firefighter steering committee?
Nothing right now.
Nothing, okay. North Pittsburgh Community Development Corporation? Bill? Okay.
Nothing to report.
Okay. And it's okay not to have anything to report.
Good, because I have nothing to report.
No problems.
No problems, that's a good thing. The Heritage Center, we got a couple of new appointments.
And
Anything else?
We have a meeting coming up.
for our new liaison, it's right, it's 4:30 PM on, boy, that was a hard one to get
Tuesday.
zeroed in on.
The
Next
20
Tuesday, the 23rd. It's being
23rd,
duly advertised
right.
and posted everywhere.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Am I missing something? Where is that listed on our agenda?
K,
Geez, McCandless Northern, oh, the Heritage.
It's
There's
really-
more verbiage than I'm used to seeing there, that's why.
Yeah,
Okay.
You're used to seeing
We
museum.
need an
Yeah,
acronym.
yeah, I got you. Thank you very
We
much.
need an acronym, that's a lot
I
of.
was getting
A lot of
hung up on-
words.
Yeah, this is a lot of
Okay,
words.
Community Day, Carolyn,
Nothing right now.
not getting started
When
yet.
will we have the meeting, I guess?
likely within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
May I ask another question too, on that point? Not to unduly quiz Carolyn, but Jerry invented Community Day and was here for, is he still going to be involved in some fashion?
He said he was,
Yes.
That's what I
and thank
thought, too,
heaven
yeah.
he is,
Because I would
he
say
knows
to
the
have
ins and
Carolyn
outs.
jump in and try to do all that stuff would, I
So
mean,
you could be the liaison, let
She's the
him,
liaison.
I mean,
Let him
I think
do
it's a
his
learning
thing.
curve, that's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
right,
That would
yeah.
be-
Right, and remember liaison doesn't mean chair of the committee,
Yeah.
I mean, the
Right.
committee
Okay,
has
all
a
right.
chair, and they have people who
and
run.
he has all the
And that's what I've
information and
written
everything.
And that's perfect, because like at the EAC, the liaison, I throw in some input, Bill,
Right.
Carolyn
I
knows,
understand.
but they run the meeting.
Right.
But he's gonna be the main guy to keep it going as he
Well,
has
that
in the
committee
past.
will have to decide who the
Yeah,
main
no, I
guy is
understand,
gonna
but
be. He
I have a-
seems like a natural
I have a
selection to
feeling he might
me,
be elected.
but they'll decide that.
Yes, I understand.
Right.
Thank you.
And then Carolyn will report back.
I understand.
He has all the
Yes.
But that-
information anyway.
Yeah,
The
I'm just
other
trying to save
thing,
Carolyn from having to,
Right.
being put upon.
That's okay.
The other thing, also is that we have, letters from, Carolyn and, Mr. Kirk also, Mrs. Swagger, Mr. Kirk also, resigning from the EAC, and giving up those positions to, citizen positions. So, do we have to vote to accept those resignations? I don't think, do we?
Not yet, because the resignations take effect upon their replacement, so you don't want to vote. You don't want to vote yet, but you want to authorize me to post on the website, I think, because
So what we had was, we had one other person for each of those wards that did interview. But the second person for Ward 2 is now decided that they really are too busy to take the position. So we're trying to contact the second person from Ward 6. And if that person is interested in the position, then since they've already interviewed and everything, we were gonna give that to that other person. But since there is not another person for Ward 2, that we were gonna post that and see if people in the community would respond to that. Is that, everybody good with this?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Did you want to acknowledge in the folder there is an annual report from the EAC?
Yeah, there is I think Brian did the very nice job on putting kind of a summary of everything that the EAC has worked on this past year. We really got a lot done, so I hope you're as impressed feel as good about it as we do. And also, it looks like there was a presentation that is going to be coming to council about the possible trails in Wall Part 2. Stay tuned. We'll pick a time for that. Any questions about anything, about any of the reports? Okay. My report and correspondence, actually, I kind of gave you that as we went through with what I talked to the solicitor about and those things, so I have no further. Town manager's report,
Did we skip the person? I may have just missed it.
Personnel.
Personnel?
did I miss one?
Yeah,
That's
on the
I'm
bottom.
so sorry.
There's nothing to report.
Well, but that's, at least that's on the record.
Thank you, Bill. Keep me honest, Bill.
So you have a voice.
Yeah, yes. Town manager's report,
I'll be brief, a couple things to highlight, item 6, it looks like it's very perfunctory, but it's always glad to hear that the county is going to deliver within 2 weeks. They said they okayed all of our work on phase 1 of Vincention. Since it's a nice big number, it's always good to acknowledge that we will receive a check expectedly in about 2 weeks for $172,912 toward the first phase of that project. In the second phase, we're about ready to go to bid on that. The other item I would like to call attention to is I am working on the diversity, sexual harassment, and related training. Item 10 on my report. I'm making some progress, pretty good progress on that. And lastly, to comment, I believe it should be publicly acknowledged here that I wasn't going to be aware. I went to the COG meeting on Friday, and I was expecting just to say to my colleagues, hey, we got our MS4 pollutant reduction plan approved by DEP for the next 5 years. How did you guys make out? And the response was, you got yours already. And nobody else has. I'm glad ours went through so cleanly. It's accepted. I do have our engineers working on the report that you have budgeted for. So again, stay tuned on that. You'll be getting regular reports on that.
What about item 1B? You had a meeting with you and Bruce and Chief DeSandy had a meeting with Sam Rosenberg about procedures under which he voluntarily agrees that he will operate. What was that all about?
That was about the,
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you
Which
just
one?
said.
1C, 1B,
1B on my
1B.
report that,
Okay.
The meeting with Sam Rosenberg about procedures under which he voluntarily agrees that he will operate.
I asked Mr. Rosenberg late last summer if he would be willing to submit to us his operating procedures, and we can determine which we can, if any, we can require, and which he would voluntarily submit to, and just give us as how he's going to operate his business, so that he can continue to show us what he professes and seems to be, that is running a very positive operation. He readily agreed. We let some time pass, and I asked for this meeting. The chief readily agreed, Bruce Betty did. Under the advice of legal counsel, we conducted the meeting to determine what items we can require. We can't require a permit where the chief signs off, but we cannot stipulate what the procedures, the internal operating procedures would be. And Mr. Rosenberg is readily, voluntarily giving those to us. He is checking with partners and his legal counsel as to what would be proprietary. He showed us drafts of all the voluminous procedures that he has. I'm motioning with my hands probably 2-3 inches thick of a number of different procedures, from the lead handling of lead and HVAC and so forth. Anything that we're going to be able to require from him under that fairly old permitting requirement, 1961, he will give us. He will give us certifications that he's received from any inspecting agencies, because this was brought up during the discussion process after Mr. Doherty had gotten the land development approval for the building. So we intend to meet again and be able to have on record what we're permitted to have on record, what he volunteers to give us on record, and have that available to the public. And I told him, and he agreed that he would publicize it to the best of his ability, and have he's certainly going to have his standards very public at his place of business, because he said he wants this thing to be as good as it can be. When I read through what he had, it looked like it could be a template for somebody to run an operation like this anywhere in the country. So whatever is going to be permissible for us to publicize, we will take ownership of that. It will be subject to open records. It will be subject to dissemination and such. So very, very open, but again, he does have to consult his partners and do it.
May I add one point that's germane to this, that it's more informational than directly involved. In fact, it's not directly involved in his operation. I've heard on the radio, I'm a big radio listener, in the early morning, there's been tremendous advertising by what is apparently a competitor that runs a similar operation to the one that's going in here in McCandless out in Cranberry.
Yeah.
And the thought occurred to me as you spoke, and I'm saying that there may be information that Cranberry has that might be valuable to you in assessing the rules and applicable to this operation. Just
A very brief response. The Cranberry operation, we understand it from what we heard from what we've picked up, is that, and we can check on that. We can talk to our colleagues in Cranberry, or maybe in Marshall Township. Actually, I think we'll have to see who the approving authority is. Some folks refer to that area, the Warrendale, just past the
They
Warrendale.
clearly
area,
say
is
Cranberry on the radio.
I know, but Cranberry tends to be
I understand.
sort of some megalopolis.
It's like being from Gibsonia.
Right. So it's always good to share information. Absolutely.
Do as you see fit. I just
Yes, sir.
want to make sure you're aware of it.
So,
That operation is not a training facility. It is a gun range and it intends to be a retail facility for guns. So I'm told we'll have some facts so we can have them at our fingertips.
so knowing the fact that we cannot go back now and regulate or require, or you can't make laws after the fact
Sure.
for this, sorry, we know that. Do we want to put a resolution or an ordinance in place that would regulate any future establishments like this? Or if, say, Mr. Roseberg is doing all these things that he's supposed to do, and he's compliant with the town, and he's given us all this information, and he sells it to someone else who's not as nice and not as compliant, do we need to have an
Conditional
ordinance?
use? A conditional use?
I don't know what it would
type
be called.
Yeah.
Do we need to have some kind of
of thing?
ordinance that would regulate this?
At the minimum, I would think we would want something on sound, you know, so that your statement that you made at the meeting, will I be able to hear this if I'm standing right outside the facility? If that could be put as a condition, my understanding is now it cannot. He said it would, you would not be able to hear it.
He did say that.
Right, I
But-
asked that question and he
Yeah.
said no.
That's good too.
Yeah, but it would be good to get that as a condition up front. He's required to.
So Greg says yes, we should go forward.
I have asked, but I paused our town attorney to not do any detailed work, but they have provided to Bruce, Betty, and me, through Chris Volz primarily, a list of items that could be considered in the future for council to insert in the zoning ordinance, and we're gonna see if there's any that could be placed in our health, safety, and welfare ordinance, which means they could apply to anyone who is extant, but certainly zoning is always future, always prospective. But we are sorting through that, and I would like to be able to proceed with that if you would like me to do that. We
Yeah.
have worked with Chris.
Do we have nods to proceed with that?
I do agree with
I
that.
agree with that.
I agree.
I want to repeat something that I had raised before during the hearing on this issue. I live up Babcock Boulevard, Southville Drive, and this is not a complaint, it's just an observation. You can really hear the gunfires from the, does anybody else hear that? The
You can
fire?
hear it from Ingomar, you can
Yeah.
hear it from the entire town.
Yeah, it's really.
It's an outdoor range.
Yes, exactly.
It's
I'm
outdoors.
saying that's all I'm asking. Other people hear that? It's not excessive. It doesn't
Everybody can
bother me
hear
at
it.
all. It's-
Okay, so
Well,
move forward.
Madam President, I just want to say, I do think the industry is regulated to death. I'll certainly be willing to look at recommendations, but I do have concerns of overregulation
I mean,
unnecessarily.
you're saying you object to us putting having it soundproof condition that,
I believe that there are already acoustic regulations, significant regulations that are in place. And I don't know that we need to supersede the regulations that are already there.
Well, it's inside a building besides, right?
But I'm certainly
There-
willing
there
to
are other
look
buildings,
at with
yeah.
an
We
open
look at
mind.
Let's look at 'em.
I'm just sharing a
Let's look at
concern
'em.
with you, that's all.
yeah.
Just like
I'm
what-
just trying to figure out what your concern is. Okay.
We started, what we've done so far, again, there's a palette of things that we can look at, and it's a matter of the staff, I think, condensing and saying, these aren't worth bringing to the town council because they're never gonna fly. Anything that might, we should bring to you so that you can determine, you're gonna vote on something like this, so. That's the plan. Thank you for the authority to do that.
All right, Don's to move forward with that.
Are you done with your report, Toby?
I am,
Because I
sir.
want to ask you a question on it.
I am.
I'm just perusing this. Is the light at the intersection of, over there by Target, the road that goes up to, what's that road? It may be-
Old Perry Highway.
Yeah, Old Perry, but there's an extremely long light there. I know we've talked before about that. Is the state doing something about that?
Have removed all the loop detectors that are in the.
That's
in
what I
the
understand
pavement.
is the reason, but
And
boy,
that's the reason, and they are waiting for the equipment, put in the computer-driven adaptive system.
they've got a plan then, right?
They have a plan
Okay.
that's gonna be grin and bear for a few more months until all the equipment arrives.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is there any town attorney's report?
Just one item. You have in your packet of information the Judge James Richland Properties opinion and order. I just wanted to let everybody know that our office did file an appeal of this decision last week.
Did you get a number for the Commonwealth?
I will check.
Okay,
I don't know what it is, but I'll check with Gavin tomorrow.
okay, great.
Did you get a what, a number?
Number.
Case
yeah,
number.
Case number.
Case
Oh, a
number.
case
And for
number.
whatever reason, I get an attachment and there's nothing in it. So could I have that resent to me of that opinion? It was sent to everyone.
Well, it's on the
Did you get
agenda.
this?
Oh,
It should be.
It was
Tonight?
in place tonight.
Oh, okay,
It's
perfect,
in the
okay,
folder. It's-
perfect.
I asked Maria. to
Oh,
put it in
yeah.
the folder.
Because because the attachment was not.
It was-
No, it's not on the agenda.
Any other questions for our town attorney? We'll open up the floor for public comment.
Linda, is the microphone on? Make sure it made on to, see if it's gone to sleep.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Don Green from 800 Village Drive, Apartment 102 in McCandless. First, I want to thank the council for their action last month in opposing the expansion of mini casinos within the town of McCandless, and I trust that you will continue to uphold that decision into the future. Secondly, I have sent you an email with a resolution that I would encourage the council to consider for adoption tonight, and for the record, I will read it to you. We, the council of the town of McCandless, on this Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, January 15, 2018, affirm Dr. King's vision, quote, "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character," close quote. Affirm his understanding that, quote, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy," close quote. We acknowledge that apart from any native indigenous peoples in our midst, all the residents of the town of McCandless are immigrants or descendants of immigrants to this place. We renounce all bigoted, prejudiced, and hateful speech about any resident's country of origin, race, religion, native language, or sexual orientation, and further condemn all who would seek to divide our citizens by misogynistic, xenophobic, racist, or nativist rhetoric. Therefore, we, the Council of the Town of McCandless, affirm this township to be a place of welcome and hospitality for all who would seek residence in our community, regardless of their country of origin, race, native language, religion, or sexual orientation. We further pledge our commitment as elected officials of this township to monitor our own speech as public officials who, by our election, have merited the public's trust against any such derogatory and hateful speech. We encourage our fellow citizens to do all in their power and spheres of influence to ensure that all are welcome and the town of McCandless remain a community that celebrates and is committed to diversity and inclusivity. Madam Chair, I would ask that the council consider this as a resolution for adoption.
Thank you, Pastor Green. In looking at these good words, it has been, I asked our town manager, do we have a ethics statement? And we came to realize that we have not updated our ethics statement in quite some time, so that it may be time to do that. So this looks like there would be a lot of good material in here that we could definitely use to incorporate into that. And any other council?
I just had one very extreme mind. First off, that is a very nice statement, very, very comprehensive statement, and I can compliment you on your good work. Just one little bugaboo that I have, I always notice, and is when you rewrite this, if we use it, we want to take the term township out, because we're not a township, we're a town. Hyper-technical perhaps, but in other words, like where you say that we, the council of the town of McCandless, affirm that this place be, I wouldn't say it's a township, that's
I
all.
would trust that
Yeah.
that you would make that
Yeah, and I don't mean that in any,
correction as you adopt it.
yeah, right, we'll take care of it. Okay, thank you.
And do we have a place anywhere on our website that says that this is a community that states some of these things? That and I'm not saying that a resolution would be inappropriate, we can certainly look at that and consider that. But do we have a place anywhere on our website that says that this town welcomes all people and that we renounce bigotry and is that anywhere? Is that statement
I
anywhere?
think we have a welcoming statement, but we have not been more specific in elaborating on that, which I think what we would want to do. It sounds like with, as you and I talked briefly about this prior to the meeting, that what the Reverend Green has put together is a good basis.
Right.
And it sounds like our chair would like to expand a bit on use this as a core. I think by your reading of this tonight, I think it's on the record.
But I thought it was a nice
And I
statement.
think that if we use this as a core for, it's well thought out, it's well presented. There may be other things we want to say, or we may want to say a little differently. However, it would behoove us to have such a statement and then borrow from it, have a condensed version that would appear. The whole thing could appear somewhere on our website, somewhere very plain. We should have a statement summarizes this.
Is council in favor of updating our ethics statement, and also looking at putting something that encompasses the spirit of this onto our website?
No objection.
Yes, I think this is very well,
Yeah.
a great statement, and and something we should have had already, frankly, but we
Okay.
didn't.
And from a practical standpoint, I met over the telephone with our new website provider that you authorized us to hire. And John Majerski had met with them, and I tacked myself on about 10 minutes at the end. They're well on their way to re-presenting. You'll be seeing a new website in several months. And one of the first things that could be put on, if we could time it, would be this.
Okay. All right, good, then let's move forward with that. Any other, thank you, that was great. Any other, comments from, our citizens? All right, good. All right, if there are no further comments, then, yeah, then the meeting stands adjourned.
We just adjourned the meeting?
We're going to.